there. To answer the question, I'm absolutely taking the Celtics right now over the field in the East. And that's not a knock. That's not a knock on any team in the East, because I think there's truthfully a handful of really good teams in the Eastern Conference. The reason I'm taking the Celtics, it's not because of Jason Tatum. It's not because of Jaylen Brown. If anyone knows me and has followed me over the last year and a half, it's not because of Derek White and my love for him. It's because of Kristaps Porzingis. This guy is a total difference maker for them. He has given them a new dynamic for their offense, and he's providing the same defense, essentially, that Rob Williams was giving them. When you look at the Celtics and how they're playing right now, Stephen A. brought up the threes. And, you know, I promised Stephen A. on our production call this morning I'd try to keep the data and the stats to a minimum. But
I told you to bring it.
I got to drop this. I got to drop this. Joe Mazzulla at the beginning of the year, he talked about wanting to post up mismatches more with Tatum, Brown, Porzingis. Okay? Right now, the Celtics have essentially tripled their frequency in post-ups. They are hunting out mismatches. When we start talking about late-game stuff, Kristaps Porzingis unlocks their defense. You want to run an after-timeout play with 17 seconds to go? He unlocks what they can do on the offensive end. I said defense earlier, I'm sorry. What they can do on the offensive end. Kristaps Porzingis, we have 10 years of tracking data. He's having the most efficient season posting up the basketball in the last 10 years. That's over Jokic. That's over Embiid. And why is that? Because he's posting mismatches. You go down the list of his most frequent guys that are guarding him in the post, and it's all perimeter guys. When he rolls in a drop coverage, he's getting behind the defense. That two-man action with Jaylen Brown on the left side, Jaylen Brown going to his right hand, him getting behind the defense, it's great action for the Celtics. He has completely changed their team. So when we start talking about playoffs and matchups, it's Kristaps Porzingis. To me, he's the most important third option in the NBA. I would probably put James Harden second. You know, so Kristaps Porzingis, the most important third option in the Eastern Conference, and it's because of his ability to punish switching. That's the reason I have the Celtics as the favorites right now over the field in the Eastern Conference. Side note real quick, no one's going to react to Doc's audio there. We've been 7 minutes since we showed that audio. Nobody's going to react to Doc's audio?
Do you want me to get it repeated for you?
We don't have to repeat it.
I can repeat it.
I've seen the trend now. I've seen the trend for years.
What's the trend?
The trend is always making excuses. Doc, we get it. Taking over a team in the middle of the season is hard. It's hard. We get it. Just like getting traded in the middle of the season is hard for a player. We get it. But it's always an excuse. It's always throwing your team under the bus. They lose to Memphis. Oh, it's his players' fault. Memphis was playing G League guys and two-way guys. And then you look at his quotes over the weekend. Now he wants to take credit for the James Harden trade to the Clippers working out. He wants credit for that. There's never accountability with that guy.
Well,
there's never accountability.
Well, let me say a couple of things. Number one, that's a very serious thing to say, and we should take it serious because we should take it serious.
You can take it serious.
He seemed pretty serious.
Let me finish. We should take it serious because you played for him. So for you to say something like that, it matters. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to say this because Doc Rivers needs to hear, and I got love for him, but he needs to hear this, okay? Just go out there and coach. Because here's the deal. You were playing an advisor's role in Milwaukee, and all of a sudden now you're the head coach. People haven't brought that up. And the more you talk about how difficult this is, the more it brings attention to, wait a minute. Nobody's trying to hear that. You got the job, go win. Go win. Yeah. It's just that simple because it didn't happen in L.A. all of those years with the Clippers. It didn't happen. It didn't happen in Philadelphia. And now, I've said this, JJ, the second he got the job. If Doc Rivers doesn't, I'm not talking about this season because he came in there halfway through, but if Doc Rivers between this year and next season doesn't win, I think it'll be his last head coaching job in the NBA. I don't think this is. I think this is his last stand. I think this is his last stand.
Yeah,
I think this is last.
You can't bring up. It wasn't the wisest decision to come in the 10-game, the toughest road stretch of the season. Come on, bro. Ain't nobody trying to hear that. They're really not. You got the job. You wanted the job because you could have stayed, had a nice little cozy job right alongside Doris Burke and Mike Breen. Now JJ has that job, but you could have stayed put. You wanted this job, and you know what the expectations are. But let me ask you guys this, JJ, Stephen A. A healthy Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey, with the way Tobias Harris and Kelly Oubre were playing, do you believe if Embiid was healthy, they could beat the Celtics in a 7-game series?
I do, and I'll tell you, Joel Embiid has for his career has been battling injuries throughout every playoff run they've ever had. If Joel Embiid is healthy and he gets back in time and he's in shape and he's healthy and he's in rhythm, absolutely. Let's not overlook the fact that the Sixers have not been a volume three-point shooting team. It's one of the reasons that for stretches of the game, their offense is inefficient. They added Buddy Hield, who's one of the greatest volume three-point shooters of this era. Let's not overlook that transaction, because Buddy Hield is a difference maker for that team if Joel Embiid is healthy.
Correct. Only if Joel Embiid is healthy. Only.
By the way, before we put a cap on this subject in regards to Doc Rivers, is it fair to say that you're not the only former player who feels the way that you feel?
Of course. But there are guys that
Okay.
I loved playing for Doc when I was there. I was there 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about him as a basketball coach.
Right. Yeah.
I'm talking about
the accountability,
the messaging. It's
accountability.
I can go back years. Stephen A. Let's not fall for this anymore. Like it's silly. It's silly at this point. I just want to say, let's not act like some of the faces of the league have been perfect with their off-court behavior.
Yeah,
I don't think that. I don't necessarily think that's a precursor. And you're obviously using Steph and LeBron in sort of the present tense. And by and large, those guys are scandal-free, right? Let's not act like some of the past faces of the league have been perfect.
That's true.
Let's not act like that.
That's totally true.
I want to bring up something Stephen A. just said real quick, and that's just the Anthony Edwards piece.
Okay.
Because, I like to talk about juxtaposition. I like to talk about disparity in approach, right?
Okay.
And I brought it up last time I was on the show in December when we were talking about the in-season tournament, and you had the semifinals in Vegas, and it was like LeBron's approach versus Zion's approach, right? Two very different things. Yeah. And if you look at this past weekend, I thought there was a fairly large disparity in approach between how Tyrese Halliburton handled this weekend and how Anthony Edwards handled this weekend.
Absolutely.
And that's not to say I'm disappointed in Anthony Edwards, but it does further our point, which you have to embrace these moments, and Halliburton embraced it. To your question, Shannon, about which American player has won, and I brought up that question not in any sense of xenophobia, right? It's not a fear or dislike of anything foreign.
No.
But I'm talking about the markability of the league within the United States, not globally. 30% of the league is internationally born right now. It is a global sport.
Yes,
we can all acknowledge that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong in my eyes with international players winning MVP and being the best players. Right. I have no issue with that.
Neither do I.
Right.
The one guy that's gotten close and seems to be willing to embrace this mantle is Jason Tatum. And I think this year they have the best opportunity they've had to actually win a championship.
The other thing that we have to pay attention to is this, and I agree with you about Jason Tatum, by the way, because if he wins a championship this year, we do have to look at him potentially as a face of the league, because I think he's the best player on the best team right now in the NBA, and he should be the leading candidate for league MVP honors, but that's just me. We can't ignore Giannis, because Giannis is already a champion. And not only that, Giannis, who has a personality, who's got endorsement deals, who's done commercials and stuff like that, he's also a guy from a competitive standpoint. We love how he approaches it. He's not trying to befriend the quote-unquote enemy. He's coming for you. And he lets you know he's coming for you on a night-in, night-out basis. And that is a component that we look for when somebody is the marquee as well.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
I think this is all a moot point if you don't win championships.
100%.
At the end of the day.
100%.
So you can be marketable, you can approach the game.
Gotta win.
If you don't get rings, you're not a part of the
gotta win.
conversation.
Which is why we can't predict which teams are going to win. So it's hard to predict.
Correct.
Absolutely.
It's
You can
what I
say
said
who's
at the
in
beginning.
line.
It's got to be organic. It happens
100%.
organically based on who wins.
What?
And then you add in those other components. 100%, Molly.
We got spoiled, guys, because Magic and Bird won so early in their career. Not only championships, but MVPs. And now that is the expectation. Sometimes guys are so great, they make it look easy, and you think everybody should do that. Everybody should win a championship in their rookie season. Everybody should win a championship by their second season. Everybody should win MVPs by their third or fourth season. And Bird won 3 MVPs back-to-back, 84, 85, 86, in his first 7 seasons. So we think that's easy. It's not. It's not. So maybe maybe we have unrealistic expectations of what we think the face of the NBA should be.
But we also
Could that possibly be it, Stephen A?
Yeah, it could be, but the other side to it is we didn't get spoiled just by them winning. We also got spoiled by how marketable they were. Magic Johnson,
Yes.
I mean, he could come. America invited him into their living room, and we know that was the case with Bird as well. They were marketable off the court as well as on the court, and that's what did it as well.
Yeah.
But Bird didn't do a whole lot off the court. I mean, but before
I'm talking
that
about with
commercial
Magic.
with
I'm
Magic,
talking about the commercials with Magic. I'm talking about the commercials with Magic.
I'm talking about with
their
Bird.
relationship.
All right.
Right.
even though Bird became one of the faces of the league, we didn't really see Bird in the commercial until him in that weapons commercial where they driving down that cornfield and Magic lets down the window of the limo in the limo. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all he did
I was a huge
win,
Larry Bird
Shannon.
fan.
All he did is win, and that certainly helped.
That's it.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Think I'm gonna try to wear, I pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA over here,